Got some free agency reports for the Toronto Blue Jays and Anthony Santander, the name that we've been hearing the most ever since Soto and Corbin Burns have signed with other teams. Well, he's on the watch list for the Toronto Blue Jays, and they're in a pretty good spot right now. So I'll break that down on this episode of Jays Digest, as well as just go around the landscape of free agency and see if the Blue Jays are making any progress towards getting some signatures done. So we'll have that and much more coming up next. Welcome in, everybody, to Jays Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis, alongside host Nick Gosse. And we got some more stories and some more tidbits coming out about Anthony Santander, as well as Alex Bregman, two names that we've been watching pretty closely here on this channel, and a lot of Jays fans have pivoted to in their own rights. We were talking about Burns and Soto earlier in the offseason. We've now shifted our focus to more so the B tier guys, but it's nothing to sneeze at either. Those guys are solid. But before we get into the video, hit that subscribe button. Large percentage of you who are watching these are not subscribed to the channel. So Nick and I are close to our goal of 15,000. Mean the world to us if we get there. And Nick, let's get into some of this news here because there's a lot to unpack, and we're hearing some conflicting reports. I mean, the Blue Jays have made an offer on Anthony Santander. That much is clear. We knew the initial offer. Apparently, it's been increased. But are they meeting somewhere in the middle here, or is there still some sort of distance between the two sides?
Yeah, that's the biggest question. And this has been ongoing now for a while, but rumors and reports are saying that his decision is coming to an end. But Peter, either way, hopefully this doesn't go as long as the Burns did from when they said reports, that they were coming to an end. But we'll start with this, and we'll start with Anthony Santander. So there's a bunch of different things going on right now. Bob Nightingale in his report was naming, adding outfield DH bats, links Anthony Santander. So he confirms that they've had a contract offer from the Toronto Blue Jays. So if anybody who, was debating whether or not Hector Gomez is right about the contract offer, he has received a contract. And then there's been some rumors circulating around from Cardinals Live. He's been a guy who's being, credited by a couple of, the bigger reporters and getting things right. But again, take it with a grain of salt, as you always do. He was told the Jays have adjusted their offer to Santander during their conversations this past weekend, and that's why they expect an answer on it this week. We also had Hector Gomez say that they expect a Santander answer this week. I'm in the process of digging likely higher AAV to get around the term wanted. Arbs coming up will be a busy week, so I'm not going to get myself in trouble. He basically says that they're increased their offer. Now, Peter, the big question I want to go over with you here is 492. That's the number that's been circulating for a little bit now. We know the initial offer was $4 million, or sorry, I wish, 4 years, $82 million. With this new report and rumor that they've adjusted their offer higher, which has led to Anthony Santander choosing and signing this week, according to Cardinals Live, and Hector Gomez as well. And I think Carlos Baerga mentioned it as well, but I'll pass on that one. What are your thoughts on 4 years, $92 million being their rumored new offer here at this point? And they also go over this offseason, if you get Santander, Quintana, Estevez, something like that, because I've also been linked to those guys as well.
Yeah, I like it. I mean, 492, it's not that big of a difference for me personally, as opposed to 482. So you just got to get this done. We know how desperately the Blue Jays need bats. We've been over that multiple times, and I just hate repeating it every video, waiting for something to happen here. Like we know the urgency, and we know the urgency that needs to be shown here by the Toronto Blue Jays. It's enough now. Okay, you didn't get the pitcher you wanted. You went with the glove first player in a trade. That's all fine and dandy, but the question mark remains surrounding your ball club that you need bats. And is Anthony Santander the perfect option? I don't think so, and which is why he's not getting 3 or 400 million like some other players that we've seen in years past. But is he a solid player? Is he going to address the biggest issue on the Blue Jays, which is lack of power? Yes, he will address that. He hit 44 home runs last year, so if that cost an extra $10 million over 4 years, I just don't understand what the back and forth is here. The fan base is getting restless. I'm getting restless. I want something to happen because it's extremely frustrating. I understand that you have some numbers to hit and you have budgets and all that. Like that is what some people are hired to do with the Toronto Blue Jays, which is not something that I quite care for, but it's not my money at the end of the day. So they're gonna do their due diligence on that front, and they're gonna try to get the best possible deal. But to me, if he truly wanted to be a Blue Jay, it would have been done by now. And I don't know why it's not. So every day that is passing by, I get more concerned that they're not going to get him because if he wanted to be a Blue Jay so badly, and if other teams aren't offering him a contract, why isn't he taking it? What's going on here? That's my question, and hopefully we get an answer soon.
Yeah, I think it's either they're going back and forth between some millions of dollars, which I hope isn't the case considering the Jays, if they strike out on Santander, I think the fan base will explode. I think everybody will kind of implode here. And yeah, I mean, whether it's 492, whether it's 5 100, whatever it takes to get the deal done, hopefully they get it done. Let us know your thoughts on that. Pivoting to Bregman a little bit here, there was a lot of rumors surrounding the Tigers. Bob Nightingale comes out and says the Jays have the strongest interest in infielder Alex Bregman, but it would take an overpay compared to the Tigers because of his. He wants to be in Detroit and he has a relationship with AJ Hinch. But an MLB, a reporter also came out and was asked in a Q&A, do you think the Tigers signed Bregman or Santander? He says he doesn't really think either of those moves align with what they've seen so far under their GM Scott Harris, especially Bregman. So regarding Bregman, we haven't talked about him. I mean, we have been talking about him a good bit, but the focus has more been on Santander here. I'm curious to see, you've been pretty vocal about wanting Alex Bregman at the right price. The Jays are actively pursuing him. Do you think that overpaying for Bregman compared to the Detroit Tigers, whether that's an extra year, 20 million, whether that's just more, money over less term, is this something you'd be willing to do? And it kind of goes back to the question of, I mean, an offseason of Santander or Bregman or
Yeah.
both with a guy like Jose Quintana that I covered yesterday or some sort of veteran, starting pitcher, like that turns the offseason around a little bit. But if you have to overpay, if you're Toronto because of the poor situation you're put yourselves in, I don't know if this contract's going to age well on its own, let alone if you overpay compared to some of the other teams.
I'm sure if you were to ask me that same question about George Springer when the Blue Jays first got him, I would have said you absolutely overpay. Absolutely you overpay. And I mean now we're seeing the result of that contract and we're seeing the decline of George Springer. Alex Bregman's best years are behind him and believe me, he had some unbelievable seasons with Houston, one of the best third basemen in baseball. I still think he's a very good player, but he's clearly on the downswing. So you're not getting the best of Alex Bregman. But the other point that you could make is that Anthony Santander is not enough to salvage your offseason. He did hit 44 home runs last year, and he's a great power bat. But I think you need a lot more than that if you want to be competitive. Now, whether you want to turn it over to a Relvis Martinez because you think he's ready to take over third base full time, and so be it. But I don't think you're going to be a better ball club in doing that. So I look at Santander and I think he helps, but I think he's more of a complementary piece. If you bring in Alex Bregman and Santander, then I think your team is significantly better. But then you fast forward 3 years from now when we're making these videos, Nick, and we're going to be talking about how Alex Bregman is handcuffing this team in free agency. So it's kind of it's kind of a pick your poison here. How much do you value getting the most out of this team in 2025 as opposed to 2028 or 2029 when Alex Bregman is in his mid 30s and can't hit his weight come August. I mean, that could be a serious issue that you're facing, but for right now, it makes you a significantly better team. But in order to get these guys, whether it's the Blue Jays or the Tigers, you have to give years and you have to give them some sort of guarantee that they're going to get paid. So, look, I love the move in theory because I love Alex Bregman as a player and I think he's fantastic, but it's definitely not going to age well. I can guarantee you that. But if we're looking at 2025, I mean, you have one more year left of Vladdy, one more year left of Bo. I think you try to capitalize on this, but maybe that's why I'm here and not in a front office position making those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, and I mean, I agree. In a nutshell, if I had to pick one, I would prefer Anthony Santander. If you go and you get Santander and then the option is available to get Alex Bregman, I'd go ahead and sign both of them if it's possible. It won't age well. But if either of these things help keep Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in Toronto, then it doesn't really matter to me. If he says, hey, get Alex Bregman at an overpay, and I'll re-sign in Toronto, sure, go ahead and do that if that's factoring into his decision. But let's also not forget Mark Shapiro and Ross Atkins. They're on their last year of their deals. So I think they're more so thinking in the next year, get this team back into the playoffs and hopefully win a game under this core. But let us know down below what your thoughts are. We're as restless as you guys. I think reportedly at least, Santander's decision is going to come by the end of this week. But we did see with Corbin Burns that it took longer than that. But either way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest news. So let us know down below what your thoughts are. See you later.